Our samples and beats have improved unbelievably since the start of the year, and that is entirely due to the fact that we've made over 250 samples and over 100 beats just this year, which runs out to be about 2 samples per day. Now, we aren't always fully motivated or inspired to make samples all the time, but the reason we've been able to make such good music recently is because of the skills and mindset hacks that we implement while making our samples, which we're going to be breaking down fully in depth for you guys, so you never have to worry about creative blocks or feeling unmotivated ever again, ruining your chance to make good music. And let's be real, you're not going to get anywhere without good music, and the more you have of it, the higher your chances are of seeing success. So let's get into the video. Firstly, we're going to take a look at what an average aspiring producer's day might look like. So we've come up with Prod Simon, a typical music producer who wants to get placements, get the plaques, go full time with his music. And if this looks anything like your day, you have to watch this whole video. So first of all, Simon gets home from his job. He's hoping to make some good music today, so he loads up FL Studio. But as FL's loading up, he reaches for his phone, sees some funny memes his friends have sent him, and he gets distracted immediately. He starts trying to make a little idea on FL Studio, but he feels unmotivated, he feels uninspired, so he goes back on his phone, decides to go watch some Netflix, chucks some J Cactus up on YouTube, and convincing himself that they're being productive by watching some music YouTubers. By now it's 10 PM, Prod Simon realizes he hasn't done anything with his day, he's made absolutely no music, so he goes to his laptop, tries to make an idea, still unmotivated, still uninspired, so he gives up, goes to bed, and then repeats for the rest of the week. The problem with this is Prod Simon does this day in and day out, week after week, and makes absolutely no progress at all. And yet, he still wants to get placements, get plaques, and make music his full-time job. So there's definitely a problem here. Luckily today, we're going to be providing you guys with all the tips and tricks that you guys need to know to stop being like Prod Simon and consistently make music whether you're feeling creative or not. So firstly, guys, we want to stress why it's so important to create every single day. When you make music every day, whether it's beats or samples, you're training yourself to create and make music even when you don't feel like it. This is super crucial, especially later on in your music career when you're in things like studio sessions and you need to present your music at a high quality on the spot wherever you are. If you're not making music every day and making music even when you're not inspired, doing these things like studio sessions and other things later on where you need to be able to just make stuff on the spot is going to be a lot harder for you to do. We see lots of people only making music when they've got a spark of inspiration or when they feel creative, which in all honesty for us may only be once or twice a week. And if you're only making music during these times, you're not going to get very far. Another bonus to making music every day is you've got more output. Yes, you may make more bad samples or bad beats, but majority of the stuff you make will keep getting better and better, and you're just going to have way more good music out there that you can send to artists and help get your name out there. Even if you're like Prod Simon, you've got a job or you go to uni or high school and your day is fully booked out, this is a non-negotiable. Even if you only have 10, 20 or 30 minutes to make something, that's still time to create music and get better and better. So make sure you're creating music every single day from this point on if you're fully serious about turning music into your job. And with this being a daily task, create something as early on as possible. Don't keep procrastinating and pushing it back until it gets late at night and you're tired and you have no energy left, where you might not end up making anything at all. So just get it done as early as possible to ensure that you're actually somewhat productive that day and to finish the day knowing that you've actually done something. Moving on, when it comes to that time to create, here are some ways to get inspiration that may help you with the process of creating something during the day. These are all things that we do and have done in the past that have helped us make music and to get into that right mindset of wanting to create something. This isn't always going to work, but it is effective sometimes. Firstly, watching YouTube videos on song breakdowns that you like. Genius does this sometimes with big songs, as well as random breakdowns where sometimes people include an FLP. This is a great way to see how songs you like are made, and you can pick up little techniques that the producer's done and you can implement them into your music. Often when we watch breakdowns of songs we like, we get super inspired and we just want to go use the same techniques that these guys have been using in our own music and just get something done straight away. So hopefully this can be the case for you as well. Also, things just like listening to songs you like and trying to catch a vibe that way to then go and create something similar yourself. And lastly, something that can just be inspiring for you to go and make music is watching big artists and producers connect and work together in studios. If you search up famous rappers in the studio and you see how they work, you may even hear a melody that you like the sound of and you want to go recreate something similar. At least for us, seeing producers and these big artists in studios working really motivates us to just keep making music, so eventually we can get to that point as well. With all that being said, these ways of getting inspiration are super risky, as you can easily get sidetracked and just go down the YouTube hole and just keep watching more and more videos, convincing yourself that you're being productive. The key with these ways of getting inspiration is to just spark an idea and hype you up to just go and make music straight away. So as soon as you're inspired or hyped up from watching a video or listening to a song, exit out of it straight away, get into FL Studio and just start creating. Take that little bit of inspiration that you just got, get that sample or beat going and just flow from there. This has worked for us countless times. But as we said before, make sure you're not getting sidetracked and just watching hours and hours of random content. And another tip we've got, especially for the song breakdowns, is to keep watching them back over and over. Especially if it's something that you don't fully understand how they've made and you do really like the sound, keep watching it back, see how they made it, and slowly you'll be able to implement these things into your music long term.
Next up, let's talk about expanding your musical skills and knowledge for those times when you sit down to make something and you're completely stuck for ideas and unsure where to start. The more skills you have and the more knowledge you have on how to use different things, the easier it will be to get an idea started. The number one thing for us that has helped us more than anything else has got to be our knowledge of musical instruments. We both have an understanding of how to play the piano and the guitar. We experiment with new instruments all the time, like flutes, and we just bought a saxophone that we're trying to learn because we understand that the more skills you have, the better music we can make and the more value we can provide it to the music industry. So if you've never picked up an instrument, this is something we highly recommend you do. If you're starting with no knowledge, we recommend starting firstly with the piano, getting yourself a MIDI keyboard and learning by simply forcing yourself to play chords and watching piano videos on YouTube with the knowledge of playing the keys and being able to put your ideas onto a MIDI keyboard. That is going to open up a whole new realm of creativity when you're making music. The MIDI keyboard is such a huge part of our musical creation process. We highly recommend getting one if you do not have one. Pretty much 95% of all our samples, we're using the MIDI keyboard somehow. There's something about playing chords and melodies in on the MIDI keyboard that gives you a lot more freedom to create ideas or even accidentally stumble across cool chords that you didn't even mean to play, which could spark an idea for a crazy composition. Playing on the MIDI keyboard is something you can never replicate when painting notes in with a mouse on FL Studio. If you're looking at MIDI keyboards, an important thing is try and get a decent sized MIDI keyboard where you have access to multiple octaves. I'm sure you're all aware of those Akai mini MIDI keyboards that pretty much every producer has for some reason, but the problem is you can't even fit both your hands on it. So if you're getting a MIDI keyboard, try get a decently sized one. It'll make life a lot easier. Another super valuable skill that you're going to need is knowing how to mix your music well. Now this mainly comes from just making music over time. You're going to get better at doing this, but actively learn about the basic things like knowing how to use EQs, reverbs, and whatever effect plugins you have so you know how to use them to the best of your abilities. One thing we've noticed with our progress of our samples and beats is that yes, the samples sound better in terms of the chords and instruments, but one thing that stands out the most is the quality of the mixes. From making music every single day, we've just gotten way better and have been improving our ear and what a good mix sounds like, and always comparing our music to the best of the best has no doubt improved our mixes and given us something to work towards. By putting time and effort into these three skills, over time your improvement with your music is going to increase drastically. The next thing we want to talk about, and this is something that we experiment with from time to time to switch up our creative process and spark new fresh ideas, is the art of sampling. For example, the other day we were in the studio ready to make a couple samples, looking for something that was going to spark inspiration. We listened to a couple Drake songs that had these sick sampled elements, so we wanted to do the same. And this led us to digging on YouTube for samples, finding this super unique old sample and turning it into this nice vintage sample. The final thing turned out insane. The process of sampling something was quite a bit different to what we normally do. So this pushed our creative boundaries and gave us new insight into how we can create music and start new ideas. And this is something we can recommend to you guys. Occasionally looking for samples, chopping things up, and turning that into your own samples by adding new layers. It's something that will definitely benefit your creative process, and you'll definitely learn different techniques as you're doing this sampling process. Because if you think about it, there's literally producers out there who have their sole focus on being sample choppers. Pretty much all the top hip-hop albums have samples in heaps of the songs. If you're interested in sampling, there's two Chrome extensions that we use to make this process way easier. Firstly, the Chrome extension Sample, which allows you to just record your Chrome browser and instantly download clips as WAV files, and another extension called Transpose, which is cracked. It allows you to manipulate the sample as you're watching it on YouTube by changing the speed, the pitch, just like if you were messing around with it in FL Studio. So it saves a lot of time and you can see what it's going to sound like once you've messed with it before you even download it. They're completely free and they can definitely help you with being more creative.
Moving into a section where we're literally going to be giving you our source and our method on how we make our samples. We're about to give you a couple tips that you can use to make particularly samples, but just help you in your creative process in general. As I list some of these methods off, I'm going to show you how we use them in FL, just so you guys can get some ideas and do them yourselves. So first up, something we've been doing recently, don't know why we started doing it, but we add effects onto a chain first, reverb, EQs, delays, whatever, and then we go into a plugin and we find a preset and start playing from there. So it's almost as if we've created a new preset just by adding random effects on first. So we'll show how we do it. So firstly, we're going to drag in a plugin. Sky Keys is something we've been using a bit recently. So we're going to go into the Sky Keys mixer track here. Effect Rack's one of our go-to effect plugins. Another thing, invest into good effect plugins. You'll not regret it. Even if you don't know how to use it at first, you'll get to know how to use the plugin the more and more you use it. So we're just going to go here. We're going to use a random preset. Let's get a bit of reverb on there. Don't even know what I'm doing really. Just random effects. A little small delay. Okay, what we do next, scroll through presets, play them on the MIDI keyboard until we find a sound that we like. So you can hear it's a pretty good sound. That's what we're going for. It can sometimes spark more creative ideas. Let's try a different preset. So there you go. But that's just to show it's something you can do. Experiment with it yourself. You guys should get the idea of what we're trying to say. Another method we've been using a lot recently is creating accents and then using them and then flipping them as the base of a sample. So again, we're going to go into FL Studio and make just like a random accent really quickly. We're going to keep all the same effects on just as we had before. So as you can see, real simple. Now we're just going to render that out as an audio clip and see how we can flip that, make it sound good. Let's throw it into a track. Let's pitch it down 3 and let's check halftime on it. Up a little bit, pitching around. And then just because this is what we do, get that, put that down 5. Put a little EQ on it. Alright, so this should sound decent. And there you go. Literally in about a minute, maybe 2 minutes, we've just gone from having absolutely no idea what to do, playing in just a little strummed chord with the MIDI keyboard, and now we've got the base of a sample. We could just go off from this, add new layers. For the sake of this video, we're showing you exactly how to do that one step. Moving into a couple more techniques that can help spark creativity and give you new ideas is starting with the drums first. So if you're planning on making a full beat, try getting the drum bounce down. Sometimes this can spark new ideas and can even give you ideas for a drum bounce that you may have never even tried if you'd already had a sample there. So this works both ways for improving your beats and your drum bounce as well as samples, as you can learn to fit samples around the beat and make sure it's not too full or crowded. Another one is just always changing the pitch as well as BPM, which you saw me do with those random accents earlier. This is something we do pretty much every single sample. We're always changing the BPM and the pitch. Every new layer that's added, we'll try slowing it down or pitching it down and then putting it back up with another layer. This is just something to keep your brain moving around and following the sample, and can sometimes make your ear hear things that you couldn't hear before that may need to be added onto the sample or taken off. And lastly, this is something we've done recently, so we just thought we'd mention it, and it's try starting with a vocal. You can record this in either yourself or just pull it from like a Vox kit or some random vocal chop kit, reverse it halftime. Again, this is just something we've done recently and the sample turned out fire, so give that a go if you want. So those 5 methods there are literally exactly what we do to inspire us to make new sounds and different types of music. So there's absolutely no reason you should have no idea what to do if you're ever stuck with your music process again. One last thing we're going to mention, and it can be super important sometimes, especially for those points where you're feeling low and unmotivated, is to just energize up and get hyped. So we've got a couple things that we do. You might want to try it as well. Firstly, pop a coffee. It's got caffeine in it. It's just going to get you boosted up, or just any form of caffeine. Ideally, you probably want to stay away from having Red Bulls every day, but sometimes a Red Bull can be good as well. Just one note on that. Don't be popping coffees and Red Bulls at 10 p.m. It's going to ruin your sleep. Second thing, get outside. Don't be a loser that sits at their desk all day. Go get some fresh air. Go hit the gym. Listen to your samples, your beats, just other music in the car if you're on the way to the gym or anywhere you need to go. Just getting outside of your bedroom or your studio, wherever you are, just gives your brain time to think, and you can come back with fresh ideas and fresh creativity. And thirdly, this is something we've mentioned before, but we'll just touch on it again. Just listen to music right before you're about to make some samples or a beat or something. Just listen to the great music that's already been put up there, that's on YouTube, Spotify. Appreciate all the production, the effort that's gone into making these songs, and just be inspired by that and go ahead and make some music.
We want to wrap it up with telling you that if you do these things in this video, if you take the time every day and care about getting better at making music and working on your craft every single day, with time you will level up like crazy. Ever since we started International, it feels like every 2 or 3 months our samples and beats level up a whole nother level, and they're only going to continue getting better and better. If you go back on our channel, you can see our old loop kits. The samples in those kits were absolutely terrible, and if you compare them to the music we're making now that you hear on our Instagram stories and in our placements we're getting recently, you can definitely hear the difference and how our sound has evolved. And with that being said, boys, we hope this video helped you. We hope after this video you go and make something of your own, get straight into making something. If you want to see our daily creative process, follow us on Instagram. You'll see our daily stories there. Cheers for watching, boys. We'll see you in the next one.